What's up guys, Mike Thomas, aka the Young Trishula here. Today, I want to talk about Canada. This past weekend I found myself in the Toronto area celebrating the wedding of phenomenal Yu-Gi-Oh player and very good personal friend of mine, Chauvin Roy. Despite having just gotten married though, Chauvin decided to risk speedrunning his divorce so that he could play in the Waterloo, Ontario regionals the next morning and graciously offered to pick me up from my hotel on the way. So, huge shout out and congratulations to him. I managed to finish 4th place after Swiss at this regional with my Adventure Dragon Link strategy, and I figured I would share the goo with you all. As always, be sure to like and subscribe if you do enjoy this kind of content. It really helps me out a lot and lets me know to keep making more of it. Also, if you're looking to get better at the game and want to support me, I do offer coaching sessions through Metafy. I love helping people get better at the game, and I know from personal experience that sometimes the best way to do so is through a one-on-one approach. I recently found out that I'm within the top 25% of coaches on their platform, so definitely check me out on there if you think that is something that you might be interested in. But without wasting any more of your time, let's hop right into it. So, hopping into this deck profile, we're just going to start things off with the Rocket package. We played a pretty standard Rocket package of 2 Tracer, Recharger, Synchron, Absolrouter, 3 Quick Launch. You don't need to play more than 2 Rocket Tracer anymore because you don't really need to see Tracer in your opening hand anymore because you're guaranteed to get into your Romulus to send the Absolrouter. We also play the Rocket Synchron even though we do not play the Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss in this current deck list because you still want a good card to summon off of Hulk that is not the Rose Dragons. So we still play Synchron, and it's also not bad in the mid game just as a good normal summon. Get back your Absolrouter and search a card. It's not a bad mid game play, but it's not really the same card that it was in previous versions of Dragon Link. For the next package that we played the full adventure package. So we played the 3 Water Enchanters, 3 Griffin, 3 Wright, Fateful, Draco Back, and a Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial I'm including as part of the Brave package because usually when you're using Foolish Burial, you're using it to send a Water Enchantress. Though you do have some other good targets to send, it's usually just best to send the Water Enchantress in this deck. Next, we play the Rose Dragon package. These obviously are here to synergize with the adventure cards. These cards are also what make Dragon Link really, really good right now because similar to the Punk deck, you're able to take really good advantage of being able to play the adventure cards plus just summoning Halki Fibrax. However, unlike the Punk deck, instead of just using these cards to summon a Dagda and just passing, you're actually able to go into the full Dragon Link combo from that point because these are of course dragon monsters, so you're able to make your Striker and also a Pisty and just generate a lot of advantage that way, which is really, really strong. So these cards are really phenomenal in this deck, and they're really what make Dragon Link meta relevant right now. Now that we're through the main engines of the deck, we're moving kind of onto our extenders. So for the extenders, we play the 3 Chaos Space, the 2 babies that Chaos Space searches, no reason to explain that, the 1 Destrudo, 1 Magician Souls, and Illusion of Chaos. So outside of these being the primary extenders in the deck, your best extenders, these are the other extenders that we play, and they're really, really nice. Souls obviously combos really well with the adventure package, allowing you to draw cards. So Souls is also really nice because sometimes you have awkward situations in Dragon Link where you need to play stuff like Dragon's Ravine and send your Absolrouter and then immediately play Boot Sector, just removing your Dragon's Ravine from the field. This allows you to get a little bit of advantage out of that field spell that you would just otherwise be throwing away and completely wasting, so it's really nice for those scenarios. And of course it synergizes very well with the adventure stuff. One marginal thing that comes up sometimes is you can use the Chaos Space to search the Illusion of Chaos. It didn't come up for me this weekend, but just thought I'd point it out. Destrudo is also a card that I've been testing out a lot in Dragon Link recently and I've been really, really enjoying. So the fact that it's just a tuner body that you can summon for free out of your hand or graveyard is just really strong, especially because this deck is so focused on summoning Hulki Fibrax right now. And the other thing too is that you're just playing the 1 Destrudo, but this is really 3 extenders in the 1 because you do play the Destrudo, you do play a Foolish Burial, and you do play a Dragon Ravine. So you see access to this card a little bit more often than you might think. And it's just really nice because having this as an option opens up a lot of lines of play as opposed to not playing this card. And then for the bricks of the deck, you have to play the 2 Dragonlink field spells. You can't get around that. And you have to play the Fairy Tale Snow. This, of course, is part of your board. You send it off of Shooting Riser. For defensive cards, we played 3 Ash Blossom, 3 Nibiru, 3 Gamma, plus the Driver, and 3 copies of Forbidden Droplet. There's not really too much to say about Ash or Nibiru. If you're not on Nibiru in your main deck at this point in the meta, you're just honestly behind. This card is very good against a lot of the top decks at the moment. Despia is not really that strong in the metagame anymore, so no reason to keep it out of your main deck. As for Gamma in the main deck, some people side this. I personally think that it's really good in the main deck in Dragon Link because it protects your Water Enchantress and it protects your Chaos Space, and I think that people don't really respect Gamma as much game 1 as opposed to post-siding. So I think just having the ability to catch your opponent off guard game 1, like if you go Water Enchantress and they ash you, is really, really nice because they're not necessarily sure what you're playing, so they can't know if you would have Gamma in your deck. And I really don't like siding this package because I don't want to side a brick into my deck. We played the 3 Forbidden Droplets. This is something that I haven't been too fond of in Dragon Link previously, but I wanted to test this weekend because I thought that there would be a lot of the Punk deck and I thought there would be a lot of Fluanderies. So I wanted to play this just to have it for those 2 matchups, and it ended up working out pretty well for me. I'm really glad I played it in the main deck. Now for the extra deck was super standard for Dragon Link. It was a Striker, a Pisty, a Seal, a Romulus, a Hulk, a Dark Charmer, IP, Unicorn, Triple Burst, Borland, Access Code, the 2 classic Dragon Link Synchros, and the 2 Adventure Package Synchros. Not really too much to talk about with the extra deck. Most of these cards are mandatory when it comes to Dragon Link. Triple Burst was a recent inclusion for me. My friend Darren Dial convinced me to put this card in the deck, and I have been really enjoying it since I put it in. I'm really glad he told me to put it in the deck because it came up for me a lot this weekend. Yeah, really strong card. I don't think Quad Boral was coming up enough for me, so having this was honestly much better. IP, you have to play it for the Despia deck. I think the better use of IP is really more for when you don't have adventure cards and need to do Dragon Link combos, because you can end on Seals, IP, and a Savage Dragon. My game 1 of round 1, my end board was exactly that, but also 5 cards in my hand. So I think this card is just really strong on its own, and I don't think I would rather cut this for Hot Red or anything. I think this is really good. Dark Charmer is the only other potential cuttable card in the extra deck, I think, and I think that this card's just so strong, especially when you're playing Triple Burst. Summoning the Dark Charmer plus any dragon goes into an access code lethal, so I don't think I would cut that personally, but you know, some people don't like having free lethals going second, but you know, that's just me. Now, for the side deck, we played 3 copies of Drone Lockbird. I moved this from the main deck to the side deck because I felt the surprise factor of this card has kind of gone away. It's good against a lot of Dragon Link's bad matchups though. It's good into Flunderies, it's good into Despia, it's good into the Mirror Match, and it's good into Punk. But my problem with main decking Drone Lockbird right now is that it doesn't feel like it's high enough impact on its own. You know, like I've got Drone Lockbirded several times throughout the tournament, and I was able to just still make a board through the Drone Lockbird because that was the only hand trap that they had, and you know, it just wasn't good enough as a singular hand trap to stop me from playing. Similarly with the Punk deck, they can a lot of the time still make a Halki Fibrax plus a Dagda, which is in itself their full board. So I didn't feel like it was super impactful there, and Despia is respecting this card a lot more now. So really this card is mostly best against Flunderies, which is why I just moved it to the side deck. Token Collector, obviously this card's mostly for Sword Soul. You can send it off Shooting Riser, so you don't need to play multiple of it. Played 3 copy of Dark Ruler in the side. I wanted to play Dark Ruler as well as the Forbidden Droplet in my deck list somewhere because I felt there was going to be a lot of the Punk deck and maybe like the Dragon Link deck, and I wanted to have cards that just against combos that you can't beat. I wanted like the best chance of being able to draw cards to beat those decks. So I wanted to play both Dark Ruler and Forbidden Droplet. Unfortunately, I never drew this card, but it obviously didn't stop me. The card was fine. Then for back row hate, I played 3 Lightning Storm and Red Reboot. A Lightning Storm I put in the deck over Twin Twister recently because I just wanted the ability to hit monsters as well as back row. Again, I was expecting a bit more Flunderies, so I wanted something that I could use to out their barrier statue with, and similarly with Sword Soul, I wanted something that I could hit their monsters with. Red Reboot, similarly, a lot of decks are playing anti-spell right now, so I wanted something that I could use to hit anti-spell in the standby phase with, as well as just locking out trap decks in general. But now on to the kind of spicy cards in the side deck. I played some really interesting and not as played cards in my side deck that I did want to talk about because I felt they were really good. First of which is the Eradicator Epidemic Virus. I mentioned this briefly in a previous Dragon Link video. So I had told my friend Sam Wynn to play this card in a very similar Dragon Link list about a week or 2 ago, and he managed to make the top 8 of that regional with this card in his deck. And I felt that this card was just really good into Mystic Mine rather than something like Anti-Spell. Because the thing with Anti-Spell is great when you draw it in your opening hand, but it doesn't do anything after the first turn. The thing about Anti-Spell is that if you don't draw it and you get hit with Mystic Mine, you have no out. And drawing Anti-Spell later does not become an out. Drawing Eradicator is an out to Mystic Mine though, which is really, really cool because if you get Mystic Mine, you can just keep playing the game and eventually draw your going first card, set it, and then in their end phase, you can flip it and destroy not only the Mystic Mine, but any spells and traps any spells that they might have set or in their hand that they were holding. So you gain so much advantage while also getting yourself out of Mystic Mine. So this is a really, really cool card, I think, while still accomplishing the same thing as Anti-Spell when you draw it going first. Unfortunately, I didn't get to side this card in very much this weekend because I 2-0'd most of my opponents, so my going first sides didn't really come in that often. I saw it once against Striker, which was really nice, but outside of that, it didn't really do anything because I didn't really go first. And on a similar note, I want to talk about the last card in my side deck, which was the best card for me this weekend, and I honestly don't really want to show this card off in a video before Nationals because I think that this card is just that good. But I'm feeling generous, so I will share the goo with you all for watching this far in the video. And the last card I played in my side deck was Amorphage Sloth. And I really want to talk about this card because I think that this card is very, very, very good. I wanted to test it this weekend because it was an idea I had and I had been toying around with, but I haven't really properly had a chance to test yet, and this card tested amazingly for me this weekend. So the theory behind Amorphage Sloth, Dragon Link is a lot like the Punk deck, except Dragon Link normally doesn't extra deck lock your opponent. And if you remember, the French national champion was playing Kwakimeru Drago in their deck list, specifically for Despia. And that's great and all, but Kwakimeru Drago only hits that one matchup. It only hits Despia. It hits the mirror match, but Dragon Link isn't as popular as other decks. But Amorphage Sloth hits every deck. It locks both players out of summoning from the extra deck except for Amorphage monsters, which is crazy because there aren't Amorphage extra deck monsters except for Pendulum. So against every deck except for pure Amorphage, this is a Vanity's Emptiness. But traditionally in Dragon Link, this card wouldn't be played because you don't have a good way to out this card. That has changed in Adventure Dragon. That is no longer the case because you end with a Baronne de Fleur on your field. So Baronne is actually able to just remove this card from your field on your following turn. Like, you're able to just pop it. Because the end board that I would usually go for would be Baronne de Fleur, the Savage Dragon, and Seals with a Fairy Tale Snow dumped to the graveyard by Shooting Riser. So what this does, you have 2 negates plus a bounce, which is already, sometimes good enough. But then you're also able to lock your opponent out of their extra deck. And this used to not be that great because, your opponent would just normal summon and beat over it or special summon and beat over it. But because you have this Fairy Tale Snow, you're actually able to protect the Amorphage Sloth and protect it from getting attacked over, which was, for me, the big thing. And the reason why that Sloth was better than Drago is that Drago actually prevents you from summoning back Snow, because Snow is a light monster. So you can't do this same thing with with the Quacky Mirror Drago, which for me was kind of the selling factor. Traditionally, if you were going to play an Amorphage, a lot of the time you would play Amorphage Goliath in the past, just because it had more attack points. But I wanted to play Amorphage Sloth specifically because it's a level 6 monster, so if I were to draw the Amorphage Sloth, it would be easier for me to just tribute summon it out of my hand rather than the Amorphage Goliath, which would require 2 tributes. So that's why I chose to play Sloth over Goliath. Now, I mentioned that I did not go first post-siding very often. I only went to 3 game 3s the entire tournament, and one of those was against Strikers, so I made them go first. But the 2 times that I did go first post-siding, I put this card in, and I won both of those matches because of this card. This card single-handedly won me both of those matches, which was absolutely crazy. This card just tested really well, and I even got dropleted and had my stuff negated in one of those matches, so I lost my whole board, but I was still able to win because I was able to just tribute off my seal, trigger its effect. So I was able to summon out my Sloth and just protect it. Even though my board had been broken with Forbidden Droplet, I was still completely safe. So I think that's one of the really big reasons to play this too, is that this lets you play around board breakers, post side, and you know, this card was just amazing for me. So definitely try this card out. And yeah, that was the deck. So for those of you who are still here, hopefully you found this deck profile interesting. Do let me know what you thought about my deck down in the comments below. It worked out very well for me. I hope it'll work out very well for you if you do choose to play my deck list. Anyway, that's about all I have for you guys today, so do remember to like this video and subscribe if you do enjoy this kind of content, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope to see you in the next video.